about to burst!
It seems like your motivation has already gone and burst.
Hey! What's this bamboo shoot doing in my pants?
Because I'm broken.
Welcome back to Anime Academia. I'm Matt Rowe, as you know, and today we're going to be discussing the 2003 ecchi comedy series, Green Green. And I have to come clean with y'all. I had wanted this video to cover a theme, which would drive us toward having a deeper conversation involving smutty art and its worth, but after a considerable amount of rewriting, I found that this series, which I had promised at the end of my previous episode, is absolutely atrocious to use as a springboard for that conversation. And considering how much dumb media that I regularly consume, I went into this thinking that it wasn't going to be too far removed from what I had experienced to this point. I was wrong. Not only does this series fail completely as the situational comedy that it's billed as, but it also completely fails in its exploitive appeal. While ecchi is half a step to hentai, where the narrative and any characterization is primarily a vehicle to get to the smutty scenes, all that Defense accomplishes is explaining the quality, but it doesn't excuse how inept the filmmakers prove to be. And it isn't just because this show is geared toward being some type of softcore nonsense. There has long been a debate within the anime community over the validity of ecchi and gratuitous fan service, and while we often find ourselves at a crossroads, wondering if it should just be passed over as sleaze for its own sake or looked at with a more detailed lens, I feel that this debate has merits on both sides. This is a reason why I'll continually lambaste projects like Triage X and Icon, while supporting shows like High School DxD and High School of the Dead, because there is something else which goes with the ridiculous over-sexualization. The showrunners manage to make their exploitable elements involved with their greater themes even while they're being completely ridiculous. DxD's whole point is satirizing ecchi harem anime, which is why the characters are all flamboyant cliches and the narrative constantly drives at the ludicrousness of its own plot. At least that's how it started. I haven't seen the more recent stuff. And plenty of people have hated my love for High School of the Dead, but I will stand by it as not only a great ecchi series, but a great anime in general. Green Green, however, is just a hot mess from start to finish, and I hardly had a moment of joy, ironic or otherwise, while watching it. Its direction by Yuji Muto, most known for his helming of the 3 Crayon Shin-chan movies, is passable, I guess, considering the evidently limited production resources afforded the cast and crew, and considering the source material. But that isn't to say that I can forgive the technical and stylistic snafus littered everywhere. You can hardly get through a single scene without time dilation decisions which would put 7 deadly sins to shame, and freeze frames, intentional or otherwise, on dead expressions after seemingly every other line read. And that's just episode 1. Now, by this point, our more pervy viewers will probably be saying, shut the fuck up, just enjoy the titties or just move on. And sure, from the opening credit sequence shoving ecchi down our throats, perfectly stating what the show is going to be about, I get your point. And whatever else I might say about this series, Green Green's opening theme slaps pretty hard. Based off the visual novel by Groover, this series is penned by Atsuhiro Tomioka. Though I may have butchered his name, this guy has been credited on pretty much every popular anime you can think of. Pokemon, Fairy Tail, Digimon, One Piece, Ace Attorney, Dragon Ball Super. He's done some of my absolute favorites like Samurai 7 and Trinity Blood, though he's also written some of the hottest garbage I have ever consumed, most notably Beyblade, Hamtaro, and this video's titular train wreck. Green Green follows Yusuke Takasaki and his friends Bachi Gu, the most cliched of cliched perverts even for the era, Ichiban Boshi, a self-proclaimed ladies' man who's closer to an incel and somehow far more cringy, and Tenjin, think Takio from My Love Story with a little sister fetish, no enduring characteristics, and an utter conviction that seeing him house bowls of white rice automatically makes panties drop. Though, to be fair, Tenjin is the least sexually minded out of all of these buffoons, but it doesn't make anything that he does any less creepy.
I want you to go ahead and eat this rice while looking at me. I'm sure you'll be overcome with joy and happiness too.
They're students at an all-boys school, which is having an experimental integration with an all-girls school and attempt to become a permanent co-ed facility, though you'd be hard-pressed to find any teachers around when shenanigans are afoot. Think Revenge of the Nerds meets American Pie band camp with even looser morals. Yeah, let that one sink in. All of these characters, and I mean all of them, deserve heaps of terrible misfortune for the shitty personalities they all have. There's even a scene where these creepers get mauled by bears, but it doesn't even come close to making up for the egregious sexual assault, their misogynistic worldview, and the overall nonsensical narrative logic. I know the first 2 points are way worse than poor world building, but these asinine twats build actual relationships with the female cast, even though they are clearly committing overt crimes. It's impossible to wrap your head around because the show doesn't let you. It's like Green Green is actively trying to roofie you. And boy howdy, I haven't even gotten to Midori yet, and she's one of the goddamn leads, but that's because she's the most simplistic male fantasy fulfillment character this side of Sword Art Online. She's a picture-perfect girl only here to pursue the protag and nothing else. And Yusuke couldn't give less than a damn. And that's not because he's getting more skin flashed at him than a Russ Meyer flick, even though that happens. It's because this doofus is completely passive. He never tries to push any semblance of a plot forward, even if it's just to get to some low-tier smut. The world simply rolls on without him, and he isn't detailed or flamboyant enough to be a satirization, and he's even more of a blank slate than most vicarious harem anime, so why are we even following him? There isn't a solitary trait in the guy which justifies all the other characters' fascinations with him. And this could be said in various shades and degrees for nearly the entire cast and for what they attempt to accomplish. There were no arcs, there was no progression. While through-line jokes do exist throughout this 12-episode series, there are a handful at best, and they repeat ad nauseum. Even if I try my utmost to find something to enjoy, anything at all, clawing my way through roughly 4.5 hours of this slog is more masochistic than sitting through Euphoria. And that shit gave me nightmares. When we finally do have ecchi moments that aren't hankered down by uncomfortable moral ambiguity or outright sexual violence, they're just as patchworked together as the rest of the show. There just doesn't seem to be a corner here that wasn't cut in some way. But apparently, I'm in the minority when it comes to this series because all y'all peeps over on ANN, Mal, and IMDb have given this some pretty okay scores. And okay is far higher praise than this series has ever a right to claim. Beyond its empty-headed characters, hollow comedy which never evolves in any enjoyable sense, and its Deus Ex Machina moments which the series throws in whenever they can't naturally resolve a scene, it is mind-boggling that the series went on to spawn further OVAs. Now, I've not included those in this breakdown, so if suddenly this dumpster fire got better, I'd actually like to hear it because it wouldn't be the first time I'd watch something that started out pretty whack and got great. And that's also the issue here as well. With the medium now completely flooded with content, even the more mediocre harem anime, which are managing to do just a fraction more with their premise or exploitable elements than Green Green, should be watched instead. Even Bondage Mansion, for all its inherent terribleness, is far more entertaining through its sheer ineptitude that I'd recommend it over this heaping pile of nothingness sprinkled with some light TNA. I really didn't think that I'd walk away from this series with such venom in my blood, but there you go, my dudes. It has infected me, it has poisoned me against it, and I want to see it burn screaming in eternal hellfire. And I know that if you've gotten this far in the video, you probably think I'm allergic to all things fun and sexy. And maybe you're right. But in order to try to persuade you otherwise, and that I genuinely believe that this genre has more to it than just baseline gratification, the next Anime Academia episode is going to be on the one and only Food Wars.
It looks like somebody's enjoying their meal.
Made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.